Hello neighbors, it's Brad here at eTrailer, and today we're taking a look at installing the CURT Trailer Hitch receiver on a 2023 Jeep Gladiator. Now this is what your hitch is going to look like when it's installed on the Gladiator, and it is an exposed cross tube, meaning you are going to see a large portion of the hitch below the bumper. And normally on a passenger vehicle or something along those lines, I'm not a huge fan of these because it kind of detracts away from the look of the vehicle, but on a Jeep it actually pulls it off pretty well. And another bonus of having that exposed cross tube generally means that you're going to get a little bit higher weight capacities, and this one is no different. Now, this being a 2" by 2" receiver tube opening means that you have a ton of accessories available for it. So whether you're looking at bike racks, cargo carriers, or ball mounts, you're going to have plenty to choose from, and we have plenty of options here at eTrailer. Now all of those accessories are going to stay in place with a 5/8 pin and clip. Now it does not come with the hitch, but a lot of times when choosing accessories, they're going to come with one, and a lot of times they're going to be locking ones. But if that's not the case, you can pick up a locking pin and clip here at eTrailer, which is really nice, especially if you plan on leaving your accessories on the back of your vehicle. You can clip that in place, lock it up, and know that no one's going to be able to walk away with your accessories. Now, if you do plan on towing, you are going to have a plate-style safety chain loop. It's going to make it nice and easy for a standard S-hook, or even a larger clevis style goes on there nice and easy, so you can get your safety chains attached. Now, speaking of towing, this does have some serious weight capacity, and as far as your gross trailer weight rating, out the gate, you're going to get 7,500 pounds, which is the weight of the trailer plus the accessories loaded up, and that's pretty solid. Your tongue weight is also pretty solid as well at 750 pounds, and that's really coming into play with your suspended accessories like your cargo carriers or bike racks, anything that's going to kind of weigh on the inside of the receiver tube opening. Now this can be used with a weight distribution hitch, and that bumps the numbers up even more to 8,000 for your gross trailer weight rating, and then 800 for your tongue weight rating. So with those kind of numbers, you can definitely pull a serious trailer, and with those tongue weight ratings, you could load up a 4-bike bike rack with no problem. Same with a cargo carrier. You could really stack that up, and I don't think you're really going to exceed those weight capacities before exceeding the weight capacities on those accessories. But when it comes to towing, even though you have serious numbers on your hitch, you're going to want to check your vehicle's owner's manual to see what it's rated at, and compare that with the number on the hitch, as well as your ball mount and the ball that you're using, to make sure that you're not overloading any of those, so you stay safe while towing. Now your center of the hitch pin hole is pretty much in line with the furthest point on the rear bumper, and that's going to be really nice for any accessories that may stow in a vertical position. Cargo carriers and bike racks a lot of times will do that, and normally we measure from there, from that hole to the fascia to make sure that you're going to have clearance. This one, you'll have no problem with those stowing up, but keep in mind, with those in that stowed position, you may or probably not going to be able to use the tailgate fully, and also it may block some of your rear view camera, so that's something to think when you have those loaded up, and just double check to make sure that it works well with your Jeep. Now we're going to check the ground clearance, and our Gladiator is completely stock, and it comes in at 19 inches, and this is going to be important when choosing a ball mount. So you're going to measure the coupler of your trailer at a level height, compare that with those 19 inches, and then determine if you need a rise or a drop on your ball mount. Now, I know a lot of Jeeps are accessorized quite heavily, and a lot of those modifications are going to be on tires and suspension. So obviously if you change those, it's going to change the height of your hitch. So if you do have aftermarket accessories, you're going to want to check the height on your individual vehicle. Now when it comes to the installation of this hitch, it's actually pretty easy. In fact, it uses 4 factory bolts that are already in place, so you just simply remove those down, and then you're going to fish wire 2 bolts in place with some spacer washers, which is pretty easy to do. Raise the hitch up, bolt it down, torque it down with a torque wrench, and that's pretty much it. And the fact that you have ground clearance already with your Gladiator means that you're not gonna have to jack it up. You can definitely do this in your driveway or garage. I would say maybe about 20 minutes. It's pretty easy to do. You might wanna have an extra set of hands to kind of help raise this up to get it in place. But I'm gonna walk you through step by step to make sure that you get your hitch installed. So let's pull this in the shop, and I'll show you how I did it. To begin our installation, we're gonna head underneath and take a look where our frame bolts up with our cross member. There's going to be 2 bolts attaching the cross member into the frame, and we're going to be utilizing this hardware, so when we remove it, keep it handy. Now if you take these 2 bolts out on both sides, it's not going to drop down. There are side bolts here, so just go ahead, get these removed using a 21mm socket. go ahead and repeat on the other side. Now we are going to be reusing the factory bolts from that cross member to mount up our hitch, but we also need to put an additional set of hardware here that comes with the hitch. And it's, if you've never used a fish wire technique, it can look confusing, but it's honestly really easy. And essentially what we're trying to do is get our carriage bolt and our spacer block into our frame rail. But to do that, this hole is a little bit wider, and that's going to allow us to get our carriage bolt in place. So we'll take our fish wire and with the coiled end feed through the bottom of the frame up to this access hole. From here, you can go ahead, take your spacer block, feed it over the coiled end, and slide that into the frame rail. You'll then take your carriage bolt and thread that onto the fish wire. And to slide this through that access hole, the head of the carriage bolt's pretty big. The best bet is to go head first here, kind of push it in like that, and then jostle this around until you get that to drop through. Now another thing that we're going to be doing is leaving this on. That way we can guide this up when we put our hitch in place, and that way it doesn't get knocked into the frame rail. But there's also going to be a spacer block that's going to account for this weld on the frame and just kind of even it out, make sure that our hitch is sitting nice and flush. So what I'm going to do to make it a little bit easier when we get the hitch in place is to bend just a little tab here, and then we're just going to hang this spacer block here. Now we'll go ahead and get this exact same step done on the other side of the vehicle. Now with an extra set of hands, I got Shane here helping me. First, let's get that fish wire pulled through. And this is going to help guide us up, but also have your factory bolt ready, because as we raise this up, get it all aligned on the frame. It might be a little bit tight here. There we go. Now when raising this up, it is pretty tight, so it really is going to help to raise it up at the same exact time. That way it draws up perfectly nice and square. Otherwise you're going to have to kind of fight at it. So we have this passed through, and with the factory bolt, I'm going to just go ahead and get a couple threads started. You may have to bump the hitch just to kind of line that hole. So if you need to, you can use a deadbolt hammer or something like that to get this aligned. But once we get a few threads started on each side, that's going to support the hitch, making it easier to get us the rest of the hardware in place. We'll take our fish wire off. And then we're going to take our serrated flange nut and get this tightened on. Now it's very important that you don't push this back up in the frame rail, and also this spacer block, make sure that it's sitting right parallel here with that weld. You don't want that crooked, otherwise it may cause the hitch to sit not completely flush with the frame. So we'll just go ahead, get some of these, just kind of get a few threads started. And what I've used sometimes is to take the fish wire, kind of hold it against those threads there, and that's going to make sure that it doesn't push up as you're trying to get this started. And once you get that threaded on just a little, you should be able to draw this in pretty easily. Now we'll go ahead and get our flange nut on the other side as well. So now we're going to go ahead and get our hardware snugged down. We don't need to get crazy here, so if you're using an impact, you don't really have to go too hard on it, because we're going to come back with a torque wrench right after we get all these snugged down to make sure it's properly torqued. Now 21 millimeter to get these back up. Now you may need to use a swivel here. It's kind of tricky just because of the way the hitch is, but if you're using you know, a ratchet, you should be able to get into this fairly easily. So now that those are drawn up, I'll go ahead with a 3/4 inch socket, and that's what our new flange nut's going to be. And again, we'll snug that down. And then we're just going to repeat the same process of snugging those down on the other side. Come back with those same sockets and a torque wrench, and the torque settings are going to be found in the instruction manual. Now keep in mind, your factory bolts are going to have a different torque setting than the new hardware, so just adjust that torque wrench accordingly. And this is going to be an important step. It makes sure that these are going to be tight enough for the lifespan of the hitch for it to stay in place, but also it's not going to be too tight, putting stress on the weld nuts or any of the hardware. With all of our hardware tightened and torqued down properly, our hitch is officially installed. All it's left to do, load up your accessories and hit the road. And that was a look at installation of the CURT Trailer Hitch receiver on a 2023 Jeep Gladiator.